The Skymet, the private weather forecaster, putting out their expectations for the monsoon period. They're saying that there's a 55% chance of below normal monsoon in 2019. This is, of course, for the period between June and September. I'm being told that the Skymet officials are addressing the press. Let's cut across, listen in.
September, which we're looking at about a -1, so 55% chance of normal. So let's see. That is how we think it is going to distribute itself. It seems that it might struggle in the beginning and strengthen during mid-course. The El Nino, this is the El Nino chances that are there that we think. And if you see, it is still, so when we met in January, we had said that this was a devolving El Nino. It is actually still a devolving El Nino. But it seems that the perpetuation of the El Nino during monsoon has become stronger. So you've seen the probabilities coming down, but still strong. The February, March, April, May, June are well above 60%. So, and that is the thing that changed in February. And in December, it had the ENSO had actually gone down to 0.4 degrees. Now it has yesterday 3.4. The region that we are most Central Pacific that we are most sensitive to is at 1 degree above. So it's a pretty decent powered El Nino right now. There seems to be consensus that the El Nino will decay. The problem is it doesn't seem to be decaying fast enough for the monsoon to benefit from it. In our experience, and I've been doing this in front of you for the almost 7 years now, continuously after 2012. Whenever there is a hint of El Nino, and it does not even need to be a well-formed El Nino. This one is actually a well-formed one now. It tends to trip the monsoon. This is what we think is going to be the regional distribution. Rajasthan, Gujarat is poor signal. We can't make a guess. But you have, and we are also, at the end of this, there is a list of districts that we think are going to get affected. We have tried to zero in on that. And East and Central India, along with some pockets of South Peninsula, could be at risk of dry weather. We think that Odisha, Chhattisgarh, coastal Andhra should be better off. So this is, we think, deficit rains in June, departure in July. And so these are the geospatial kind of, again, I'm going back to June differentials. We are getting a repeated signal of weakness in Central India. That is where the surpluses are actually accumulated. Then we see this happening in August and September. This is a list of the districts, and it's going to be in the press release as well as in the this PPT, where we think that there is a risk of dry weather. It's very hard to ascertain what is the level of risk, but repeatedly we think that this is, so we have Andhra, Bihar, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and West Bengal. Thank you. So AVM GP Sharma is there, Mr. Pallavath is there to take any more questions. Yes.
So using the
Yes. Yes.
El Nino forecast, which actually shows an increase in El Nino probability after August, JS, which is September.
After, okay.
It's dipping and then again rising in autumn. So,
Amit, if living with the El Nino for such a long period of time, these projections are dynamic. You have to take the average picture, okay? And from June to now, there's been a dramatic shift. So I think the lesson is that one, the spring predictable barrier doesn't really work because it keeps on changing. When does it change is very hard to pin down. I think we can only look at 3 months down the line. If after JS it goes up again, we don't know what that means. So I would leave it at that. An El Nino, a well-formed El Nino or evolving El Nino going into October generally means a good northeast monsoon for Tamil Nadu and Kerala. It seems to mean a relatively warmer winter for the northern hemisphere. That seems, again, those correlations are not as strong as the monsoon ones. So I would leave it to uncertainty.
I add something to this. If you take a cycle of 12 months of El Nino, normally it starts building up between December and April. monsoon months, it's on the rise. December, January, like our winter fall, it is at the peak. And then again, it starts devolving from March, April onward. That's a normal cycle of El Nino in case it follows. And possibly this, we saw it rising. In December or so, it did reach peak. It was thereafter, it started declining. But then these are the changes which have taken that it has started shooting up again. Otherwise, it was so far following a normal cycle. Okay, that's it.
Any more questions?
So isn't the, the unpredictability factor high at this point in time because we don't know how the El Nino is going to behave? There are some models that are showing that El Nino might, last until June and then maybe dissipate. And then there are others, of course. That are saying that it's going to last through summer. So isn't the unpredictability about over El Nino rather high at this point in time for you to make a monsoon?
See, the unpredictability, as you said, yes, it stands as of now. Okay? Because the projections which have been made during the monsoon months, they definitely show a El Nino standing with 60% chance or more to begin with. The only good thing which we see at the moment, it is a devolving one. And we keep saying devolving one is not as punishing as the evolving one. But as Jatin said in the beginning itself, the hint of El Nino itself is good enough to spoil your show. So we don't take it lightly. And I think there are some news also, it's a mild El Nino. Please don't go by that. El Nino is El Nino, okay? The milder ones also, even the moderate ones also, 2014 it was a mild one. Your severe most droughts have taken place when the El Ninos, they were moderate during the monsoon months. Later they peak. So we don't go with that side that it's going to be a mild El Nino. So we take care of these conditions and therefore we predict that it's going to be below normal.
This seems to be like 2014. 2014 you had an unevolved El Nino which kind of collapses and 14 goes and then suddenly around this time it again starts flaring up. So the patterns of El Nino, the de facto state of the Central Pacific, if you look at all meteorological studies, is always ENSO neutral. But the de facto state over the last, especially since 2012, has always been going towards El Nino. Now, the theory is this is an impact of climate change, that all the carbon is being absorbed by the oceans, and that is where it is showing up. That's where, even if you look, that's why when we look at climate change and its impact on the Indian monsoon, if you take a long time series data, it actually averages out towards normal. But then you need to look at, especially, say, 2009 El Nino, it is one of the worst droughts. I think it's -17. Then the next one is 2012 when it is in 93, -7, where the El Nino collapsed right at the end. 13 is the last good monsoon we had, which was 106. It was an ENSO neutral. 14 drought, 15 drought, 16 is a -3. It was a La Nina, and our initial projection in 2015 was actually 108. But the best we could manage in a La Nina year was a -3. 2017 was a -5 below normal. Our forecast was because again there was a hint of El Nino, and 2017 is also not a fully formed El Nino. And neither is it a very strong, the El Nino was very strong, okay. 2018, we started with 100. Again, it looked like a monsoon, it looked like a ENSO neutral. And then later we realized that, in August it started running out of energy. We actually downgraded to -9. It actually went for -9. That's what the dynamical models, this is why this is important to understand. The dynamical models do not show these signals. This is based on statistics and experience, and the computing is not catching up to this. The modeling of the El Nino is a challenge. So you need to take a guess, and now the bias from history is that if there is a hint of a warm thermocline under the Pacific, you're better off taking a bet that it is going to be weak. There is always a chance of this forecast going wrong. The gentleman who taught us this, D.R. Sikka, said that there is tremendous amount of uncertainty in atmospheric science, especially when it comes to this. But over a period, we seem to have demonstrated that there is something that you can eke out of it. And in science what is going to happen is that the dynamics is going to catch up to our knowledge to do that, because and the dynamics in January was completely different, and they did not catch the spike. So there is also in the spreads of uncertainty into 2012 is interesting, because it was a evolving El Nino. It was going to be a drought. Midway through the monsoon, the El Nino actually collapsed, and there was no signal for it. And the monsoon recovered from a minus 13 to there's a significant amount of coverage to be made later part of the monsoon. So this is how it is. And in this universe of uncertainties, there are certain guesses that you.
Well, absolutely. Just taking away from what he's saying and summarizing that, the Skymet's first official monsoon forecast for 2019 is out. Remember, we are still awaiting the IMD to come do the same. They've, of course, said that before mid-April, they will also come out with their first forecast. But taking in the first important numbers in, it's expected to be a normal monsoon with just about 93% of an LPA. Just to tell you that it is normal when it is between 94 to 104%. So 93% is just about there. But because it's an El Nino year this time around, and just to tell our viewers that last 20 droughts that India has had, 13 of them have happened in an El Nino year. So this is yet another year when we have an El Nino probability of around 60% is what Skymet is saying. But there are other global meteorological departments like from Australia, Japan, from US, which also say that there is a probability of an El Nino developing between 50% to even 80% on the higher side. These are early months, and these organizations, of course, will keep working on the exact number there. But it's important to see on how month-on-month Skymet also is putting out these numbers. So there's a 75% probability of a below normal monsoon for the month of June. So what we eventually really are preparing ourselves for is a deficient and a delayed monsoon, at least in the beginning. As Skymet was pointing out, it is expected to get better over the course of time. So there is a 75% probability of a below normal monsoon for the month of June. 55% probability of a below normal monsoon for the month of July as well. And then August and September will see a normal monsoon. But the important point also is that July is a very critical month. Remember, much of the rainfall actually happens in July. That is what the major number is, because June is onsetting of monsoon. July is the most important month. August is less than July, and then September is the phasing out month. So when you have to look at the Kharif crop going forward, you will want to look at the July rainfall, because the kind of deficiency you will see in July is usually not made up in August and September, and that, of course, could be a bit of a concern. As I said, we still are awaiting what IMD has to say on that, but IMD also has been saying that they are looking at a normal monsoon, but the probability of El Nino and how much it develops, and how it hindrances or impacts the monsoon is something that they also would be wanting to watch as we move ahead from here.
Manisha, at 93%, this is clearly below normal. I mean, Skymet is saying below because, as you said, it's 96 to 104%, right?
That's
it's
right.
Considered average, normal.
Just about, yes. We are looking at -2. But the important point also is, Prashant, that for last 4 or 5 years, we haven't had a decent monsoon at all. And when you're staring at an El Nino year, the concerns are just that much higher. As, Jatin was pointing out, we've seen -9% last year. We've done -5% year before that, -3% year before that. So we haven't had a normal monsoon for last 4 or 5 years now.
So, okay. So now, all I'm saying is that they're predicting for a below normal.
Yes.
There is also a model error, I think, ±5%, right?
That's right.
So, it's sobering news in that sense, Manisha, right? I mean, no chance of excess rainfall. I think that is the other point that he was making, the Skymet officials were making. And as Manisha pointed out, we'll have, of course, get the Met forecast as well should come out by mid-April, the first one. And then we'll see how it pans out. But 55% chance of below normal monsoon in 2019. We'll, of course, pick up on this and get you some opinion from, more experts. Manisha, thank you for joining in. We will slip into a quick break at this point. We'll come back and look at the market in some detail. 20 points still in the Nifty, 11,734. Ashwini with us in just a bit.